This is Utah's best coverage of the Utes, Cougars, Jazz, and Mammoth. Here we go. From the guys who have been there for all the biggest moments in Utah sports history. You're listening to DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The NBA playoffs continuing without the Utah Jazz. Feel like you're watching a friend go on some big vacation and you're just sitting at home and you're 8 years old and they're going cool places, seeing cool games, doing cool stuff, and you're just sitting at home with no one to play catch with, PK.
Well, that's why I had a paper out and I bought a pitchback.
The pitchback. I had a pitchback. Those are awesome. I literally went out there one day when I probably was feeling sorry for myself and everybody else was doing something really cool. Pitched a whole game. Had a sore arm as a kid. I was calling balls and strikes, giving up line drives.
Yeah, I think that you're used to it now, and you knew going into it, so it's not like it's something that caught you by surprise. I'm speaking of Jazz fans and the idea of being into the postseason. Now, next year, that's an entirely different story, and they should have an opportunity to get there in some form or fashion, hopefully, in the top six where they're avoiding the play-in and whatnot, although, maybe if they get in the play-in, they have an opportunity to win that. Everything has changed regarding the Jazz, and that's the good news about it is that, and that all changed literally with just one move, and that was the move to get Jaren Jackson. And we were waiting for that. The Jaren Jackson trade just changed the entire complexion of everything. It's amazing, one player. Now, hopefully we're not putting too much on him. I don't think we are. I don't think we're putting too much on Jaren Jackson because I think he's a very good player, but we're looking at the other players to support him or he to support them, depending on what it is, combined with a high pick that we may be able to achieve here with the lottery. That's the mindset of the management. And even if it's not an extremely high pick, they have so much available that they can go ahead and do something if they need to bring in another quality player who's a rookie. And yeah, I get it. Rookie's going to take time. But beyond that, they can get some other players. And so we'll have to see what the roster looks like. But I think the arrow has been turned completely, and now it's up. Not expecting a huge jump, but I am expecting a huge jump. Maybe one huge, not two huges. A pair of huges.
I would say you're not putting too much on Jaren Jackson Jr. It really hasn't even occurred to me that we would be putting too much on Jaren Jackson Jr., which I suppose devil's, devil's argument there. Well, that's exactly how you put too much on it. You never consider it. But it's like riding a bike. You're already headed downhill, picking up speed, and then all of a sudden there's a big dip. You're going to go even faster. I mean, Markkanen, they've clearly sat him when he was healthy. They have sat him in the fourth quarter when he was playing well in the first three, so they made sure they would lose the game. Yeah. The team is getting better. It's time for the young guys to play at a higher level. And, I mean, let's face it, Kessler's about to get paid like he's a good NBA player. He's not a kid anymore. He's going to be on a real contract making really good money. Not that those rookie contracts are terrible. More money than any of us are ever going to see in 1 year, that's for sure. But Kessler, the point is, Kessler is arriving. That's why he's getting this next contract. And Keontae George is right behind him. So there's the what Dennis Lindsay always called the organic growth, and then you add him to the group, a guy who I mean, he goes out and gets 15 or 20 points. We're not going to be talking about it. That's just what he does.
Who are you talking about?
Jackson.
JJ?
Oh, if he goes out and gets 25 or 30, we're going to be talking about it. But if he has 15 one night, 20 the other, he's a big guy. He's a former Defensive Player of the Year. We expect an intimidating presence out of him. Kessler's getting better. Keontae's getting better. Markkanen, they've been stashing him away so they could improve their lottery odds. Yes, the hope should be higher. I don't think it all rests on Jackson, but you're right. That moment, that was a big deal. And this rebuild went on longer than I thought. It's not how long Danny Ainge rebuilds have gone on in the past. He did two in Boston. One lasted they missed the playoffs 1 year one time, and another time they missed it twice. But this trade that I thought was coming, Trader Danny, that's a well-earned nickname, there were no big deals. And, there's all these salary cap restrictions, and other teams didn't want to make a deal and whatever. And finally, Memphis was in the right place at the right time to make the deal. and Austin was here by then. So it took 3.5 years. And then it's like you said, they play out the string on a fourth year because they're 3.5 years in, but we all know. It's like, it's on. It's September. But it's not. To me, Jackson was a big piece of that puzzle, but it's not all sitting on him. I mean, I got expectations for all these other guys.
And I've got no problem with those expectations, but until that happened, you didn't know how long it was going to go.
No, it didn't.
And then once
they needed that trade.
I'm speaking generally, not you specifically, but we didn't know. But once that trade was made, you don't make that trade.
It's clear.
And
very clear.
Try to tank another year. You just don't. It's not conceivable. It's not possible. And they don't want to. They've had enough. They're tired of the commissioner calling them, what are you guys doing, blah, 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 blah. Now the commissioner, you don't have to worry about that phone ringing. If the phone rings and it's the commissioner, it's about something else. It's not about why you guys are sitting, guys. Now, the great thing about it is this franchise has had a stellar reputation, or at least a solid reputation for decades, and now that's returned. And the league will see it. It will see that, okay, we don't have to worry about that franchise out there. They're not going to embarrass the league. They're not going to do something. And maybe, you had to. But that they forced the Jazz to do it. Jazz did what others have done, and somehow they got crapped on for some stupid reason. Meanwhile, San Antonio is flying high. And credit to them that they sucked, and they sucked at the right time to get Wembanyama. But in their other times that they sucked, they were able to cash in with players. Just because you stink and got a high draft pick doesn't mean that you're going to get a good player. We've seen that so many times. And to their credit, you got to give them credit for drafting the right guys. And here they go. And they look like you could draw parallels between the Spurs and what the Mammoth are doing. Young guys all on the come, playing very well, and looking like you're going to have a winning situation in X amount of years, fill in the blank, 5 years, whatever it might be. Who knows? We'll see how it plays out. Now, the Jazz aren't quite there yet because the Spurs obviously have proven it on the floor. The Jazz haven't proven on it on the floor. That's what I want to see. And I'm so fascinated. I can argue that this will be the most fascinating season in the time that I've moved to this area since 1993 when I moved. That, and what I mean by that, the fascination of how is it going to play out for the 10 years that my first 10, well, we knew how it was going to play out, right? You're going to have the one guy dribbling up the floor, dribbling the ball up the floor, looking to make a great pass. You're going to have the other guy score, and some other guys are filling the other necessary holes there. Away you go. Even with the boozer Darren Williams, okay, I pretty much knew how it was going to be. And then in the Mitchell, if you want to call it the Mitchell Gobert era, there was a little bit of a development there. Guys like Joe Ingles and Jordan Clarkson came to pass that maybe we weren't quite sure. I don't think anybody could have predicted Joe Ingles was going to be what he was. Now, it's an entirely blank canvas. Who's going to emerge? Are they going to have a guy who's the guy? Or are they going to have two guys averaging, say, 22 and 18, 19? Or are they going to have two guys averaging 24 and 21? Whoever those two are. Is it the two big guys in terms of Jackson and Markkanen? Where does Keontae George fit in? How does he fit his game in now to where it's a winning situation and everything is magnified? And then you got the wild card over here, Locke, who we all respect his basketball knowledge. Even if you don't like him, we do, obviously, but if you should have a reason not to, certainly you respect his basketball knowledge. I mean, come on. The guy's just so into it, and he's got so much experience now and talks to so many different people that what he says has value, and he's talking about the emergence of Ace Bailey as soon as the middle of next season. That's crazy. How does that all work? Will Hardy has gone from like rags to riches in a sense, right? You're playing to lose, essentially. The guys on the floor aren't, but the management is. And so you've had to deal with that and handle that for 4 years. And the fact that he still has hair on his head and he hasn't pulled it all out is amazing to me. Yeah, and I know he's getting paid great money. I understand that. But At the same time, if he would have been patient, he probably would have get the Boston job. So you play those mind games. Now, this season, how does he direct all these pieces of the puzzle? Name me a coach in Jazz history who's had to do what he's about to do. I don't think you can. Now, I don't go back. I know Frank Layden was a character, so certainly we knew of him, but that's the extent of it. Jerry Sloan, when he takes over, right, the emergence of two Hall of Famers, well, don't get in their way, right? I think Jerry Sloan's greatness was in his ability to put lesser players, far lesser players, in roles in which they can succeed, and they did, taking nothing away from how he handled Stockton to allow him to play effectively much later than he probably should have, right? But you knew, don't really mess with those guys. His greatness and genius was the system that allowed role players to really flourish. And what does Will Hardy do? How does he handle this? I am so fascinated how this is going to play out and what it's going to be. It's, for me, after slogging through these last 4 years, I am super excited to turn on that television or go to these games starting from game 1 next season.
I think that this rebuild reminds me a lot of that Carlos Boozer, Darren Williams rebuild. I think that last one, with Hayward leaving and Mitchell showing up, that was really weird. It had its own time and it's had its own thing going on there. But Jackson comes in kind of in the Boozer role. All right, this guy's been successful. How much more successful can he be? Jackson's a little older and more established than Boozer was. Boozer had only been in the league 2 years, I think, when he jumped to the Jazz. And then you've got D. Will, kind of the Ace Bailey thing, like, man, I see some upside here. This could really work. Kirilenko had been on the roster a long time. I don't know if there's a perfect comparison to him or Memos, but I do see some other comparisons there that make sense to me. They'd been down 3 years, and that was they were really frustrated because it looked like the first year, this is what turned out to be the third year missing the playoffs. There were injuries, and D. Will was sitting, but he was starting, but he was sitting. So there's this like, hey, we're ready to go. Why isn't it going? And I think that's what we felt here with the fourth year in this rebuild. Like, isn't it about time? Shouldn't we be going by now? So I think there's some parallels with that rebuild. You're right, the Stockton Malone thing was totally different. I think that Hayward-Mitchell dynamic, that was highly unusual. To lose a player of that caliber and to get a player of that caliber immediately in the draft who you could plug in right away, who wasn't a 3 or 4 year, warm him up, get him ready to go guy. He was ready to go right away. So we'll see. I think the cool thing about this versus then was you knew that team was really skilled, but they weren't that big, and they were a little undersized and maybe not that athletic. They had some in D. Will, they had some in Kirilenko, whereas now it's like this team's huge, and there looks like there's a lot of athleticism, and if they get lucky in the draft, there's going to be even more. So I see the parallels, but I can see why this one might excite fans a little more. And then you do have the coaching thing. Like Sloan was really a known quantity. The only question, I guess, at that point was, is he still going to have the fire year after year? How is he going to relate to these young guys? And the answer was very well to some and not so well to D. Will. There was always going to be a problem with D. Will. But other guys like Millsap, awesome, great, fantastic, no problem. Plug him in, let's go. So,
I don't,
and now you got a coach here who just doesn't have the track record. With Jerry, it was really bizarre, but it's like he'd been doing the job for 15 years. We knew him inside and out. We knew what he was going to say before he said it.
I don't see very many parallels in that Boozer-Williams thing to this team. That one, Darren Williams had the ball in his hand since the time he was 5 years old. And he took his team to the Final Four, right? And so he was going to come in. Once Sloan gave him the keys, he was going to drive it. And it took a bit for him to get the keys, I understood. Jerry wanted to do what he did there. But here next year, who gets the keys? That's what I'm saying. Who has it? Who's going to be the man? We knew once they signed Boozer that, okay, he's going to be the low post guy. They brought in Okur. Well, he wasn't going to be a back-to-the-basket guy.
Nope.
That wasn't his game.
He's going to run out the three-point line and shoot threes while D. Will drove.
Okur, I wish he played today. He'd be more valuable than he was then. And who's it going to be? Now, Jackson likes to take threes. Boozer went most of his career with 0 3-point attempts.
No, he was at the high post.
Yeah.
High post or low post. That was it.
And he wasn't no one was at his position was really a 3-point shooter at that point. And Jaren Jackson fancies himself as a 3-point shooter. And how's that going to play out? Marketing fancies himself as a 3-point shooter, right? Are their games offensively, are they duplicates? I'm not saying they are. I'm asking the question, are they duplicates? How's that going to play out? How's the space going to be for them? Because you're going to need room, right? You have to have space. Spacing is huge in this game. Jerseys talk about it all the time. And so how's that going to play out? And how's that wonderful backcourt of George Bailey fit into the equation, right? You don't want to stifle Ace Bailey's development, nor do you want to stifle Keontae George's his development, because he had massive development this season. Does he deserve an opportunity to have the ball in his hands? Does he deserve an opportunity to be the man? Well, I think when he hits the gym, they've been out, their season's been over for a little bit, and so he's going to get himself back in there working. And Ace Bailey, I saw somebody did a little interview. He's talking about, I'm staying here in Salt Lake City. I want to really have a great second season. Okay. Is he the fourth fiddle? It's hard for fourth options to really flourish, right? How's that going to be? I don't know the answers to any of these things. The great thing is that all 4 guys that I just mentioned, wildly talented. You're not trying to squeeze something out of them that they're incapable of doing. You don't necessarily need them to perform way beyond their capability. You hear, have a career year. Well, Ace Bailey, the next 5 years are probably going to be career years because he's so young and he's going to build upon it. But I don't think they need these folks to perform way beyond their capability. And if that's the case, how does it all mesh? The meshation of this team, I find it fascinating to see how it's going to develop from the offensive standpoint. If you bring back Kessler, I think that's the defensive anchor that you need. And so the emphasis that they put on defensively, as we've heard Will Hardy speak about that over and over, and he spoke about it right at the end there in his final address before they depart for the summer. It's going to be at the defensive end. Great. And I expect that, right? And if you don't D up and give it everything you got on the defensive end, the good thing now is he's got options, and it's not like when Steve Cleveland first took over at BYU, he had no options. He had to play those guys whether they dogged it or not because there was nobody else to play. Here, he can throw in some other guys. But on the offensive end, who's going to be the man? What are going to be the slots? Who's going to be the primary? And 1 through 4. How's that going to be?
How is he gonna rotate through them, PK? Because none of these guys are going to play 82 games. Some of them, we'll see if somebody plays 75. Right now, I would take no. So you will have some guys at 70. You'll have others at 60 or 65. So those 4 guys you mentioned, you're right. There's only one basketball. Who gets the shots? But if people are missing 10, 15, 20 games, that takes away some of the pressure.
Sure, but they're not going to do that in the playoffs, though. They're all going to be there.
Well, we'd like to think so. We would like to think so. We'll see when we get there if they're all going to be there. I mean, the playoff injuries are up. We can get it. We can do another segment on that. DJ and PK, we're going to take a break right now. Coming up next, the Utah Mammoth. You buying in? Are the playoffs winning you over? We were sharing people's stories earlier this morning. There were a lot of different stories, interesting takes. Some people moved from Arizona. The whole take on what was happening in the St. George area. Obviously, winning matters a lot. But there are more people shaping their fandom in interesting ways, and we will get to that next. Stay with us. DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Over 2 decades of sports radio dominance in Utah.
My favorite.
This is DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The KSL Sports Zone and Beehive Meals are honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week at KSLSports.com/contest. PK, one of your better efforts. You put up a question on our Facebook page, DJ and PK, are the Mammoth converting you yet? And we got a lot of answers on this. Some of them really predictable. Tony, absolutely. Tony, he loves playoff hockey and he loves winning. So that's not very surprising. I think a lot of people buy into that. Nate said converted the minute he heard the announcement. Scott said, I'm a Coyote fan. OG, who followed the team to Salt Lake. Not that surprising. We all know people from Arizona up here. You see the license plates and the bumper stickers and all that. If you don't know someone personally, you still see that. But there are people who have had it. It's been hard. It's been hard on them, PK. It's been difficult. Aaron, my family is all Mammoth fans. I can't turn on my Avs, though. I just can't. It's been 30 years. Aaron's bought in. And he's living in another town, but he just can't make the switch. You surprised? As someone who never did that kind of stuff yourself, you surprised? Or
No.
you've seen the loyalty run deep? You're not surprised at all?
I mean, if that's who he's loyal to, stay to it. Why would you change?
Because the team is here and your whole family did. You might go with them. I mean, it probably
That's the very reason not to, because your whole family has gone.
Brooks, I've been an Avs fan since they've been the Avs. I'll cheer for the Mammoth except when they play the Avs.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a tough one inside the same division. I have seen people with the split loyalties. You know, it's easier in the NFL when you got an AFC team and an NFC team, and they rarely run into each other. It's easier to have two. Tough when they're in the same division.
Yeah, but I don't have a problem with that. If you're a hardcore, in this case, a Colorado fan, then why would you change? I don't think you should change. That doesn't mean that you can't include somebody else. But I think it's the same thing with me, right? I want to see BYU and Utah win football. Let's just go football, all right? And now, of course, with Bronco and Kerr at Weber and Utah State, I want to see them win. I mean, it's funny now. The 4 coaches that play college football along our area, I have personal relationships with each of them, right? And so I want to see them all do well. But if you go for BYU and Utah, I like to see them do well. When they play each other, I try to be neutral. When they play the Devils, all right, well, okay, well, I'm a Devil, right? And so that's one game. And, one game, and that's in a college football where one game can make a big difference, right? I never want to see the Devils beat them like 50-0, like Utah has done the last 2 times they've beat the Devils, actually, creamed them both times, because I don't want to see these guys, these coaches, suffer. But I'm going to root for the one team over here. I'm certainly not going to show anything when I cover. But then when you've got the 82 games, what's one game? No one game in a span of 82 or 3 or 4, depending on how many times you play them. Now, if you play them in the playoff, that's a different thing.
Yeah, different deal.
But,
yeah.
We'll see when and if, probably at some point in time, that will happen. Maybe it can happen as soon as this year. Who knows? But if you have that original fandom, why would you change? There's a lot of people here who have been Laker fans, and yet they still want to see the Jazz do well. I think that, to me, I don't see where that's disloyal or conflicting. I think those can go together.
Really, Laker fans who want to see the Jazz do well.
Well, they don't necessarily care about the Jazz. Like Tony Finau, big Laker fan. Mm-hmm. He knows Ryan Smith. You want to see Ryan Smith lose? This guy's a friend of mine. Speaking from Tony, not me. I'm not. Yeah. Ryan Smith's not a friend of mine. But
you're not hanging out. Going to Cafe Rio together?
We are not. I mean, I've talked to him many times, but I'm not even sure he knows my name.
I think he knows your name. I love it when you say that, man. Do you say that now just so you can get me to say the other one? You're just prompting me?
You think he knows my name?
I do.
I don't think so.
Okay.
He may know PK, but that's not my name.
I think he knows your name. He listened to the show before he owned the team. We had him on the show multiple times before he owned the team. We had him on talking about BYU, which we're about to get to, by the way. Stay tuned for that. Before he owned the team.
Yeah. But if you're Tony and you've been a huge Kobe Bryant fan, do you probably wants to see the Jazz do well, right?
Tony's a good example. I could see where, for multiple reasons, he'd have a couple teams.
If you grew up a fill in the blank, and a lot of people grew up Laker fans, why? Because they won. What a great team to pick.
And it's just like we said, there's people from Arizona here who have followed the Coyotes, who are rooting for them now because they know the guys, and it's the same thing with the Lakers. There's so many people from LA here. There's tons.
Yeah. And you end up watching them, and it kind of grows on you. I don't see how this hockey team hasn't grown on you. Because it's fresh. It's
Vernon.
new.
Vernon's your guy.
Yeah.
Nope, they are not. They got a lot of winning to do to get me converted. Maybe a championship or Stanley Cup is what it would take. Vernon claims he's not on board.
That's too late.
The bandwagon's full, dude. You're just going to have to keep running alongside it if you want to stay in the parade. The bandwagon is full.
Yeah. I love the band Old Dominion, right?
Uh-huh.
I've seen them.
You told me about them a long time ago, before they blew up.
Right.
Because we've sat in here in commercial breaks. Here's one of the many things that happens in our commercial breaks. PK checks the prices of tickets for bands that may not even be on this side of the country. They could be, playing in Florida or New York or somewhere, and PK's like, oh, look at this. It's $400. I saw them for $40.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I saw them at the depot across the street from where we are right now. The KSL building. Everybody knows where it is, right?
They're at the Sphere for $800. I saw them for $85.
And isn't that cool that I saw them when they were barely getting started? I first saw them, I think the very first time I saw them was at that amphitheater in Chula Vista, and they were opening for Kenny Chesney, right? Mm-hmm. And we were down there, and so let's go to the show, right? And we planned it. That's why we went to San Diego in the first place. And it's in August, gorgeous night, blah, blah, blah. They come out, and I got seats standing right there in the pit. And I am literally 3 feet away from the stage, right? They come out there, and they play their tunes, and they're smiling, laughing. I do not know one single tune. The only tune that I knew that they played was a Mellencamp, Little Pink Houses. That's it. That's the only song I knew.
Yeah.
And they covered it, right?
Yeah.
But I like the sound. And then all you got to do is go to a computer. You can click on, go to iTunes, and you can hear half the tune, and then, hey, I like this, man. And then I go see him again. And again, I've seen him like in 6 different states. I love going to concerts outside of my home state, which would be, in my case, would be 3 home states: California, Phoenix, and here. Or Vegas, for that matter, since I've seen so many shows in Vegas, right? I saw him in Hawaii. I saw him in Idaho. And now they're blown up, right? I saw them in Colorado. They played at Red Rocks a couple years back. Peyton Manning was there dancing away. And I could say, I knew these guys win. Now they've blown up big time. Well, I knew them when nobody knew them.
I think that totally resonates with sports fans.
Isn't that the same thing? You don't want to wait till they win a championship. Yeah. You want to get on board now.
We all want to see someone break out as a rookie. And if you have a chance to see one in college before they go in pro, or if you see them in high school before they go to college. People were watching Puka Nacua at Orem High. He made a catch I think it was a season opener of his senior year. He made this. It was a long pass, and he made this awesome catch in the back of the end zone. It dragged his feet, got the touchdown. Oh, that Puka Nacua kid is awesome. And somebody else was like, oh, yeah, I knew it last year. He was lighting people up as a junior. You always want to be in early. I think absolutely. You can't get in early enough. The sooner you recognize it, the better. And you've told us this story, and this is another thing we talked about in commercial breaks. You came back from some youth baseball tournament, and you're telling me a story about a 12-year-old catcher, and parents are whispering about him reverentially, like, oh, I hear he's going to be here. He's not going to be here for the Friday games, but he's going to come in. He's going to play Saturday. He's 12. He's in the 6th grade. How early do you have to start with the hero worship? Well, he grew up to be Bryce Harper. Turns out he was pretty good. People wanted to be in on him early, before he was a teenager.
Yeah.
Nonetheless. I mean, you were telling me about it at 12, but there's somebody out there who can top it. Well, I saw him at 10. I knew he was something then. I knew him in the 4th grade.
No, I waited till he was 12. I wanted more proof.
Hey, don't buy these 4th and 5th graders, man. You'll get led astray. You got to wait till the 6th grade to figure it out.
Well, now they reorganized, and 6th grade is junior high. Yeah.
That's true. Well, and he did. I remember you coming in one morning like, the rumor is that Bryce Harper is going to get his GED. I'm like, what is he doing that for? So he can go to JC a year earlier and be eligible for the draft a year earlier. I'm like, ooh, and start making the big money.
I think it was 2 years.
That makes total sense. I was way behind the curve on that.
He did it after a sophomore season in high school.
Yeah, but you were telling me the 10th grader is going to take the GED.
Right.
Because apparently it was just common knowledge down in Vegas, and then the baseball community knows, and everybody wants to be in there.
And I knew baseball people in Vegas at the time.
That's the earliest. There's a reason Sports Illustrated, before it became whatever it is now, but back when it was the preeminent sports magazine and such things mattered, there was a reason that they were doing a massive profile on LeBron as a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
And there was a reason that when Reggie Bush was a junior, and as you pointed out, I'd left San Diego and hadn't lived there in 20 years at that point or whatever it was, and the San Diego newspaper, back when such things were really important, did like PK. It was like a 100-inch story. Wow. It went on. It jumped twice. It was on the cover.
Nice.
Then you went inside. Then you went to another page inside. I kept reading it. It's like, is this like a biography on this guy? Well, they want to get on the record. We knew Reggie was special. And by the time he's cutting up Fresno State at 1 a.m. with a run that is still on highlight shows, they were like, yeah, we knew. We knew.
Yeah, so that poster on Facebook, don't tell me about you want to wait till they win a title.
No, get on board with the Mammoth. That's why people went to the arena day one for the welcome. I was there when they got off the plane.
Yeah, and if and when the Jazz win their title, all these folks that have been with them for 30, 40, 50 years, celebrate wildly. Celebrate wildly because you've earned the right to celebrate. This dude who jumps on after, you haven't earned the right to celebrate. No, not at all, man. We saw that when the Red Sox won and people went to cemeteries to be with their dead relatives. I still remember distinctly watching the San Francisco Giants. Now, they won 3. And they run them in even years. Was it like 10, 12, 14, or 12, 14,
something like that.
16?
Yeah, but it was every other year, 3 times in 5 years.
And the first time they won, they had one of those screens in the city parks that they've got in the actual city of San Francisco. And they showed this lady standing there by herself, older lady, white-haired lady. Final out is made. They have won the World Series. That's it. And she's standing there, and there's a camera, like, looking from the ground level up at her, and you can see her left eye's teardrops falling down her eyes, falling down from her eyes down her face. And it clearly she was thinking of probably her deceased husband or whomever it was.
Yep.
And she's standing there by herself, and you could see it, and it just moved me practically to tears. And to think that what that meant to that elderly woman, that her team that she'd probably been a fan of, when did they move? In 1958, 59, somewhere in there?
57, I think. But yeah,
57? Yeah, okay.
matter.
And this was 2010, all these years later, come on. If the Jazz ever win, I hope I don't have to be working, but I hope I'm alive, because I know, and we all know, so many diehards that they deserve the opportunity to jump up and down, do cartwheels, hug people, run out in the streets, do whatever it is that you would do, because you were there for all these years. And you haven't literally bled with them, hopefully not, but metaphorically you have. And that's what it's about, to have that opportunity to experience that moment. Yes. Don't tell me after the fact. No, not at all. Anybody who wants to be a Laker fan now, forget it. No. In order to be a fan, don't you have to suffer?
Yes.
Yes, you
That's why
must.
everyone resents the Diamondbacks. Those long, two grueling years. And honestly, I think it's why everyone resents the Thunder. Oh, you ripped off the Supersonics. You got Kevin Durant was already drafted. You people have never really suffered. They did go through a tank in between.
Well, and they lost all those guys, though. They all left.
They sent Harden away. I mean,
They still lost them. They still lost them. You're a fan. That's your guy.
Yeah, from the fan perspective,
you lost them. Whether the management did what they did. I had a kid in high school who was a huge Bobby Mercer fan, and they traded him, and he was crushed.
Because that was his guy.
Yeah, and he grew up in Connecticut, just across the state line, which is Yankee territory there, and they traded Bobby Mercer, and he was hurt. He's 16 years old. Yeah. So Thunder fans have suffered a little. Maybe they didn't suffer as much.
Not enough. They need to
okay, all right. If you want to go not enough, all right. I can live with that.
I mean, Clipper fans have suffered enough, if there were any.
I think there's some.
You know who really suffered and it paid off was Warrior fans. Warrior fans had a couple of lost decades in there. They were terrible. And it was because of the owner, and he sold, and they got a new owner, and they were smart enough to bring in Jerry West as a consultant, and he helped them make great decisions, and they had a great run.
Well, every dynasty had to get to be a dynasty. You didn't just become a dynasty by opening up the doors. There's got to be some suffering along the lines. I went to college, and he just retired from being an anchor in Colorado Springs, and he was from Buffalo. And my gosh, he suffered.
I just met a lady who introduced herself to me and said, I know everyone's excited about the Mammoth, but I'm from Buffalo. How about the Sabres? And I literally looked at her and said, oh, the Sabres and the Bills, you have suffered. She goes, I know, but look at them now.
Yeah, okay, but the Bills really suffered. And they still suffer. They're suffering today.
I think just Buffalo has suffered. The Sabres and the Bills, it's been agony.
I've been to Buffalo.
Go to Niagara Falls, right?
I did. Flew into Buffalo.
I've not been to Niagara Falls.
I've walked the streets of Buffalo.
Is that on one of your baseball trips? On your way to Pittsburgh or someplace?
Toronto.
Oh, Toronto. Okay. Yeah. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Coming up, top of the hour, Jay Stevens will join us, and we will talk hockey playoffs with Jay. What does he think of Game 4 tonight? Jay's on the way. Stay with us.
And now, your Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer's strong play of the weekend.
Alex, this is typically where you play the play that is the Rocky Mountain Chevy play of the weekend.
The play of the weekend.
Right. Play the audio, and then we'll find out what the play is. And then you'll listen this afternoon. Jake and Ben come along at 2 o'clock, and during their show, they will call for it. And once you hear it, then we all know what it is, and you will win fabulous prizes.
Okay. High fly ball. It could be. It might be. It is.
You going with a home run?
Yeah, just have them call in the home run call.
Here's the specific call. What is it, Alex?
Ducks possess the puck. It's Ryan Poehling to the front. Off a skate towards the net, and it's stopped by Jari near the goal line. Poking away. Scramble. Ducks think they have won the game, but there is no signal from the officials.
After review, the puck completely crossed the goal line.
Ryan Poehling wins the game in overtime. Anaheim Ducks take a stranglehold on the series with the two-time defending Western Conference champion Edmonton Oilers. They'll have a chance to close it out Tuesday night at Rogers Place after a 4-3 overtime victory in Game 4.
Confusion and chaos in Anaheim. Know it today after 2 o'clock. Jake and Ben, there it is. Chevy Strong play of the game. And, of course, the winner of that series, and Anaheim's up 3-1 on Edmonton, the winner of that series will face the winner of the Utah-Vegas series. So
doesn't that sound like the old days I used to say when the refs would huddle?
Yes, I thought of that immediately. Now they don't get to huddle and just decide. Now they go stare at a monitor. And they put on a headset and someone Secaucus tells them what to do. That moment is lost.
It is, man. And I miss that where they would huddle and then 9 times out of 10 point in the direction of the home team and the crowd would go berserk.
I had not noticed that pattern. You told me that. And one night I was sitting on press row and it's, I don't know what it is, 78-75 with 8 minutes to go and everybody's on edge and they're huddling. I'm like, Jazz are totally going to get this ball. I guarantee it. And then it happens. Like, how did you know? BK told me in about 47 commercial breaks. It just finally played out at the right time.
Yeah, and I think some of the human element has been taken out of it where, you're going to get the replay, and I suppose that overrides. But I miss the arguments and so forth. Yep. The Mexico series with the Diamondbacks and Padres, they didn't have the ball and strike system. And on the Saturday game, who knows what would have happened, but it was clearly a ball to end the game. And they couldn't appeal. And like, wait a second, you've known for months that you were going to go down there and play a couple of ball games. You couldn't have figured out a way to have it. So they end up having a situation that is different. Come on, man.
Not right. Not right at all. I do think the first cousin of that we will see next year when presumably the Jazz are good and the urgency to win games is much higher, that if you get like a bad call in the third quarter, or even better, a couple of bad calls, if the home team's a little lethargic and the crowd's not quite into the game, you get a couple of calls and a place goes nuts and it puts more urgency on it. I was sitting next to Pace Mannion one night and that happened. I said, yeah, they weren't playing well. It's a great time for a couple of bad calls. Watch everyone get fired up now. And Sloan was screaming and the crowd was screaming, and then the team, I don't know, they finished the game on some crazy 45-21 run or something, and they won the game. Bad calls in the third quarter get everybody amped up in a sense of urgency. We've been done wrong. They go nuts.
Yeah. I suppose replay is good for the game, but I do miss the controversies that it creates.
Well, when they don't get the replay right, then there's more controversies.
Yeah,
so
but how many times does that happen?
Well, Real Salt Lake thinks it happened to them yesterday.
Well, that's a whole other sport. That sport over there, I don't get that.
Why? Justin Glad in the postgame. Why do we even have VAR?
Yeah, put that sport aside.
Okay.
Because that has been a perpetual
Don't you think the NFL
problem.
and college football still have it from the and we'll see, because college has tweaked that rule on the suspensions. But you see somebody run over the middle and the receiver's ducking and the defensive back hits him, but he wasn't trying to target him. The kid kind of ducked into it. The receiver did. And so there's still plenty of controversy. They're not reviewing everything. Baseball's getting closer to reviewing everything with the balls and strikes and the plays on at the bag.
I think that the targeting call, what has baffled me is they go and they review it and they take the targeting away, but they still give a 15-yard penalty. That seems inconsistent. It's like, okay, we won't kick him out, but we're going to slap you for 15 yards then, so shut up. And I don't understand that. If it's not targeting, why is it still a 15-yard penalty? It seems to me it ought to be either all or nothing. But they don't go in that direction.
DJ and PK, when we come back, Jay Stevens joins us covering the Utah Mammoth. We will get his take on Game 4 next. Are the Mammoth going to go up 3-1? Jay joins us after the break. Stay with us.